What's up, everybody? This is a depiction of the Anunnaki, ancient gods worshipped within the cradle of civilization Mesopotamia, dating all the way back to around 5000 BC. This is the Wandjina, creator gods of the Aboriginals in Australia that dates back to around 10,000 BC. This one comes from the Maya in the Yucatan circa 600 BC, America 8000 BC, and last but certainly not least, this one comes from the oldest temple complex in the entire world, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey circa 10,000 BC. Now, let me ask you something. Do you notice anything similar? Because I sure as shit do, and it's that every single one of these ancient depictions looks almost exactly the same, which is weird, seeing as none of these ancient bastards had any fucking clue the other one even existed, and this got me thinking, what if this wasn't a coincidence and all of this shit is somehow connected? Could we actually prove it? Let's find out. The similarities between these photos is pretty f***ing obvious. But if we were to lower the bar just a little bit, that number more than triples, yet the overall concept of the art stays the same. One or two figures with arms stretched out holding something in their hands. Birds or dudes that look like birds always seem to be present, and apparently these ancient bastards really had a thing for handbags. Seriously, what the f*** is that about? All of which, again, is weird, because accepted theory tells us these beings are fictitious, aka not real. Right? Right. So that means someone had to use their imagination to think this shit up, because it's not necessarily something you just pull out of your ass. Yet, somehow, despite its fantastic nature and incredible creativity, every single ancient culture that has ever existed imagined the exact same being doing the exact same thing with the exact same tools? I mean, just by sheer odds alone, that doesn't make any sense. Then you pile on the fact that the ancient stories associated with these fantastic bastards are exactly the same as well? What are the odds of that shit? Exactly. Which means maybe this shit wasn't imagined and the stories associated with them weren't a myth. Yeah, let's explore that possibility a bit. The earliest known writings about gods, deities, and interdimensional beings comes from the ancient Sumerians of Mesopotamia. But, I mean, technically, that's only because they invented writing, which is neither here nor there. I just thought it was worth mentioning. Anyway, according to the Sumerians, the Anunnaki were beings of immense size and strength who lived for thousands of years, descending from the stars to rule over humans and decree the fates of man, which is an important theme. The whole big strong guy comes down from the sky, human beings worship them as kings, because that story is the same story every other ancient culture tells, and the similarities each story shares is pretty f***ing eerie. Case in point, the creator god of the Aboriginals in Australia descended from the stars on a rainbow serpent, which sounds just like the Mayans of South America, whose creator god descended from the stars on a feathered serpent, and China's yellow emperor, who descended from the stars on a yellow dragon. The Hopi of America were protected by the Ant Friends, which translated means Anunnaki, who, just like the ancient gods of Egypt, lived on Earth for thousands of years. They all say their gods came from a star, either Sirius or Orion. Each and every one of them talk about a world-ending flood that only a chosen one, his family, and a bunch of f***ing animals survives, just like Noah and his ark. They came to rest on the top of Mount Ararat, which is less than 600 miles away from Göbekli Tepe, a site that only displays animals and a single mysterious figure. It's only 550 miles away from where this whole mystery began, ancient Sumer, aka the cradle of civilization, which also happens to be the actual location the Bible says all of this shit took place, and son of a bitch. Is that the connection?
What the fuck are you talking about, man?
Hear me out on this one. In the Bible, more specifically the beginning of chapter 6 in the book of Genesis, we get a brief mention of the Nephilim, who were on the earth in those days when the sons of gods went into the daughters of humans, who bore children to them. These were the heroes that were of old, warriors of renown. A very confusing verse that just comes out of fucking nowhere, no context, no resolution, and what the absolute shit. Because unless I'm reading this wrong, it sounds like angels came down to earth, banged our women, who then gave birth to something called the Nephilim, which sounds just like the ancient Greek stories of the Olympians and the demigods, especially that last line. And then, what? You just continue on with the original story like you didn't just tell me angels banged our women? Kinda feels like there's more to the story. And as it turns out, there actually is. Found within the book of Enoch, which was originally a part of the Bible until around 365 AD when it was removed by the church. However, its existence resurfaced back in 1946 with the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which contained 11 different copies of the book, including the never-before-seen Book of Giants, all of which predated our current version of the Bible by 1,000 years. And that's where we find our connection, because We briefly hear of Enoch at the end of chapter 5 in the book of Genesis, when Enoch walked with God after the birth of Methuselah 300 years. Thus, all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more, because God took him. Meaning, Enoch never died in the Bible. Rather, he went to heaven alive, saw some shit, learned some shit, then returned 300 years later to write his book, which tells the tale of the 200 fallen angels who were charged with watching over humans, but instead defied the rule of God, banged our women, and gave humans a bunch of forbidden knowledge. The women got pregnant, gave birth to the Nephilim, who were giants, which pissed God off, so he sent a massive flood to wipe those big bastards out, which is the real reason he sent a flood, not our sinful ways. Please understand that these are his words, not mine. I am simply quoting Enoch. My point. Every single ancient civilization tells the tale of God's coming down from the heavens to impart knowledge and technology upon humans. They're always described as giant, living incredibly long lives, ruling as kings, worshipped by humans, and a world-ending flood always seems to be the climax. So, these are the 200 fallen angels that spread throughout the earth, which is why all of this shit looks exactly the same. The stories match as well, and apparently, the flood was real too. But hey, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. What do you think?